What does this sweep mean for Chicago's momentum? How will the Angels respond? And could this be the turning point that shifts the direction of their season? Stay tuned, because this shocking finish is only the beginning of the story. The Chicago Cubs delivered a powerful statement against the Los Angeles Angels, capping off their series in unforgettable fashion by chasing their former teammate Kyle Hendricks with a 4-run barrage that sealed a dominant sweep. What makes this story even more compelling is the emotional and competitive angle. Hendricks, who spent years as a cornerstone for the Cubs, found himself on the other side of the diamond, facing a team and a fanbase that once celebrated his every pitch. In the early innings, they worked counts, fouled off pitches, and forced him to elevate his fastball and misplace his off-speed offerings. The result was a 4-run outburst that completely changed the tone of the game. The big rally began with a string of quality at-bats, showing just how much the Cubs lineup has grown in patience and execution. Contact hitters found ways to put the ball in play, while the power bats looked locked in and ready to punish mistakes. The crowd erupted as runs crossed the plate, and you could feel the momentum shifting entirely in favor of Chicago. Each hit seemed to add to Hendricks' frustration, and eventually, Angels manager Ron Washington had no choice but to go to the bullpen earlier than expected. Watching Hendricks walk off the mound, chased by the very team that he once helped build into champions, was a surreal baseball moment, emotional for fans, but undeniable proof of how quickly the game can turn. The Cubs didn't just stop there, though. Once they had the lead, their pitching and defense stepped up to maintain control. The starting pitcher set the tone by mixing pitches effectively and keeping the Angels' dangerous bats quiet. The bullpen then came in and did their job, shutting down any attempt by Los Angeles to climb back into the game. Every time the Angels seemed like they might rally, the Cubs found an answer, whether it was a big strikeout, a diving defensive play, or a perfectly executed double play. One of the highlights of this series sweep was the way the Cubs lineup functioned as a complete unit. It wasn't just the stars or the middle-of-the-order bats getting the job done. Players throughout the roster contributed, whether with a key RBI, a stolen base, or even just working a long at-bat that tired out the opposing pitcher. That kind of depth is what makes Chicago so dangerous. They don't rely on just one or two names to carry the load. Instead, they attack from every angle and make life extremely difficult for pitchers. For the Angels, this loss stung deeply, not only because it was a sweep but because it came at the hands of a team that has been trending upward while they continue to search for answers. The absence of consistent offense and the struggles on the pitching side were glaring throughout the series. For Hendricks specifically, it raised questions about his role moving forward and whether he can find the form that once made him such a reliable arm in big moments. It's not easy to face your former club, especially one where you built such a deep history, but in baseball, sentiment doesn't earn you strikes or outs. The Cubs didn't show any hesitation in treating him like just another opponent. What makes this storyline even more fascinating is the long-term implication for both sides. The Cubs, by sweeping the Angels, not only improved their record but also sent a signal to the rest of the league that they're not just rebuilding, they're competing. Their young core, mixed with experienced veterans, looks like it could be something special if they continue this kind of performance. On the other hand, the Angels, who already had questions coming into the season about their identity and direction after losing Shohei Ohtani in free agency, now face even more pressure. Fans are left wondering how much longer this cycle of inconsistency can continue before major changes are made. The series sweep also provided a boost of confidence for Chicago heading into their next set of games. Confidence is a huge factor in baseball, and when a team feels like they can outlast and overpower any opponent, that swagger translates on the field. The Cubs walked away from this series not only with wins but with momentum, chemistry, and belief in what they're building. Their manager praised the team's ability to execute in key situations, highlighting the discipline at the plate and the toughness shown by the pitching staff. Those elements combined to make them a nightmare for the Angels all series long. For fans in Chicago, watching their team take down Hendricks might have felt bittersweet. He's a beloved figure in Cubs history, someone whose calm presence and postseason heroics will never be forgotten. Yet at the same time, seeing the current roster thrive against him was a reminder that the franchise is moving forward. Baseball is about evolution, new faces step up, old legends move on, and the cycle continues. This series was the perfect example of that evolution. Every detail of this series had drama and meaning. The crowd atmosphere was electric, especially when the Cubs' bats came alive. You could hear the chants, the excitement, and the energy that made Wrigley Field famous even though this game was played on the road. Cubs fans travel well, and they made their presence known, cheering loudly every time their team pushed another run across the plate. By the time the final out was recorded, the Cubs had officially completed their sweep, and the dugout celebration said it all. Smiles, high fives, and pure satisfaction radiated across the team. They had not only beaten the Angels but also reminded everyone that they are capable of playing sharp, balanced, and exciting baseball. Meanwhile, the conversation around Hendricks will linger. His legacy in Chicago is secure, but in Los Angeles, he'll need to prove that he can still deliver at a high level. Baseball can be cruel in that way. One day you're celebrated, the next day you're struggling against the very people who used to call you a teammate. Still, Hendricks has always been a fighter, and it will be interesting to see how he responds to this setback. Ultimately, this series sweep was a statement by the Cubs and a moment of reflection for the Angels. Chicago showed that they are a team to watch, one that can beat you in multiple ways and won't back down against any opponent even when facing a former hero. The Angels, on the other hand, were reminded of just how much work remains if they want to climb back into contention. As the season continues, this game will stand out as a symbolic turning point for the Cubs. They're no longer just looking to the future, they're making their presence felt right now. And if they keep playing with the same energy, execution, and confidence, they may very well force their way into serious playoff conversations. For the Angels, it's back to the drawing board, and for Kyle Hendricks, it's about finding a way to bounce back after being humbled by the team that once adored him. And for fans watching, it was a reminder of why baseball is such a beautiful, unpredictable sport. A beloved pitcher chased off the mound by his former teammates, a young and hungry squad proving they're ready for the spotlight, and a series sweep that tells a much bigger story about where these teams are headed. The Chicago Cubs made sure everyone knows they're here, and they're not going anywhere. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to keep up with more exciting recaps, updates, and analysis of MLB's biggest stories, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment of the action. The Cubs are making headlines, and we'll be right here to bring you all the latest news, drama, and unforgettable moments from around the league.